governor, Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, the Republican, probably has the upper hand because he can call basically another special legislative session if this ends. And at some point, Democrats are going to have to come back. And I should just add, every day that they're away, these Democratic legislators have incur a $500 fine for being absent from jobs. And the governor has said, look, if you accept donations to cover that $500 a day fine, that in my view is an effective bribe.
Let's start with this news that the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has ordered the arrest of more than 50 Democratic members of the state legislature. They'd fled the state to protest plans for a new congressional map which would redraw the boundaries in favor of Republican seats. Look, we've got a clip from a press conference in Illinois where the Texas Democrats said the move was evidence of discrimination.
They're focusing on pushing these racist, radical redistricting maps. And why is it racist? Because 70%, over 60% of our Texas population are Hispanic and African American and our Asian community. That is the largest African American population in the country is in Texas. The second largest Hispanic population in the country is in Texas. But they want to silence our voice. This is nothing short of blatant racism.
Lara, this is a remarkable story. Democratic members of the state legislature fleeing into exile, the governor ordering their arrest. Explain for us what's going on here.
Yeah, so it's actually not as uncommon as you might think for Texas legislators, especially Democrats, to leave in the hope of avoiding a redistricting effort by Republicans. Often we have these redistricting plans, but they have them every decade. So when you have new census information, when the decade rolls around, you can say, OK, we're going to redraw the boundaries. Ideally, it would be to better to better make sure that people have effective votes. But for a long, long time, Hugo, you will know that that's not how this often works. And one of the great ironies of this whole story is, of course, that Democrats, especially actually Democrats in Illinois, which is where some of these state legislatures have fled, also do this practice of gerrymandering, where you alter the district lines in order to make sure that you can be in a better place towards winning a seat, your prize seats in the elections. So this is something that both parties are guilty of. But in the case of Texas, they're not trying to do it at the end of the decade. They're trying to do a mid-decade redistricting effort. Trump has been very, very open about the fact that he wants this to happen. He said he wants 5 seats added to the Texas legislature for the Republicans. At the moment, they hold a razor-thin majority in the state, and they're hoping to push that up higher. I mean, at the moment, it's already pretty gerrymandered. So Trump got 56% of the vote in the recent election, but carried 71% of the House seats there. And this new map would turn that into 79% of the district. So it would boost it, and it would definitely help them be able to lay claim to Texas in future years. But obviously, Democrats are furious about this. They don't want it to go ahead. And so they hopped on a private jet to various states, Illinois, also New York, and a couple to Massachusetts as well, where they are basically holding out at the moment in the hope that they won't be pulled back to vote on this. So they're trying to deny the legislature quorum. So they're basically saying there's too many of us and you're not going to be able to actually have the ability to pass this new redistricting effort. The politics of it is very complicated because it's a special legislative session that's not just considering redistricting, which is, of course, an extremely partisan and bitter dispute at the moment, but is also considering the response to the recent and devastating Texas floods, for example. So Republicans are saying, look, the Democrats have fled. They're not going to be aiding flood victims because they're more concerned about this. Meanwhile, the Democrats are saying, actually, you're trying to hold us hostage by using these floods as a way to force us to vote on something that we think is flagrantly undemocratic and obviously, for obvious reasons, against their political interest too. So we'll have to see how it plays out. It's not totally without risk for the Republicans because they have something here called dummy mandering, which is this idea that you can gerrymander to the point of actually hurting yourself. So if you do spread your vote too thin, say the Republicans did quite badly or there was a wave election the next time around, you could be in a situation where actually that means you actually lose a number of Republican seats. So it's not uncomplicated for the Republican Party. But at the moment, this idea that they're going to be arrested, probably not true. These are civil arrest warrants that aren't likely to be possible to be enforced in the states where these Democrats have fled to. But actually, the governor, Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, the Republican, probably has the upper hand because he can call basically another special legislative session if this ends. And at some point, Democrats are going to have to come back. And I should just add, every day that they're away, these Democratic legislators have incur a $500 fine for being absent from jobs. And the governor has said, look, if you accept donations to cover that $500 a day fine, that in my view is an effective bribe, and we're going to try and seek to prosecute you as such. So very kind of difficult gamble for Democrats. In previous times that they've done this, they have caved, or some have caved and come back. So it's hard to see how they necessarily win from this. But at a time when people are saying the Democrats have poorly responded to the Trump administration, they might be hopeful that they can make some impact here.
Absolutely fascinating on so many fronts, including the fact that Texas, which I guess we think of as being perhaps the most Republican state there is in fact only tenuously such. Does this mean, just briefly, Lara, are they likely to get, presumably they are going to go back to Texas eventually. Are they likely to be arrested when they do?
It's a good question. I mean, first of all, they're going to be expected to vote or to turn up to make sure that this vote has quorum. They will be, the New York governor, Hochul, yesterday in a press conference said, these legislators will be incurring not just this $500 fine, but also steep legal fees to defend this. So you can imagine this will become a very obvious legal battle when they get back. So we'll just have to watch for that one.
Right. Let's talk briefly about Donald Trump's anger over the recent US jobs report, because he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics after it came out. He said on a post on Truth Social, the numbers were rigged in order to make the Republicans and me look bad. In the Times today, there's a great piece on whether or not he could be right. Is he right? Was it rigged?
Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics isn't necessarily in the easiest of positions with this anyway. They've had difficult budgets, they've had falling response rates to their surveys, and they have been hit by that Trump hiring freeze in January, all of which conspired, I think, to put them in a slightly more vulnerable position to this attack. Many people will say this was a routine revision to the jobs data, and that for that reason, it's not really necessarily fair to say, particularly that the Commissioner McIntyre was responsible for this in circumstances where it wasn't clear that she necessarily even had the ability to alter the data before it was published. But we are in a position where this data is becoming more questioned than it was previously. So response rates are down on this. You basically are calling hundreds of thousands of employers by the phone to try and get access to this jobs data. And many of the bigger businesses might reply earlier. Some of the smaller businesses might reply slightly later. But we've definitely seen fewer businesses responding to these surveys. And indeed, in the wake of this, there's a question as to whether or not this whole saga and controversy will mean that even fewer businesses respond to it as well. So I think people are worried about the data in that respect, yes.
Finally, Lara, we must turn, as all conversations now do, to Sydney Sweeney and her jeans advert, which President Trump has endorsed as the hottest ad out there. Is this whole fight, with people on the left saying the ad is eugenicist, people on the right saying the left have gone mad, Donald Trump loving Sydney Sweeney and slagging off Taylor Swift, Sweeney now being out as a registered Republican. Is this fight politically significant, or is it just extremely August?
Extremely August. I think there's definitely extreme fascination with the politics of Sydney Sweeney, particularly because she had that controversy a couple of years ago over the fact that people were wearing Make 60 Great Again hats, i.e. at her mother's 60th birthday. She said later that wasn't her family, but there were suspicions about what her politics might be. And so I think for that reason, people were primed to be fascinated in this. Similarly, this question of whether DEI initiatives used to be in vogue, particularly in the advertising world, but now aren't in vogue, is, I think, pertinent to this. But American Eagle, who, of course, are the company that employed Sydney Sweeney to be in these adverts, will be very happy about it. And they are insisting that it's got nothing to do with that. Great jeans look good on everybody. But I think, they're getting plenty and plenty of attention from this row.
Yeah, my jeans, I'm sure, are lousy. Thank you very much indeed, Lara Spirit. Always an absolute joy. Lara Spirit there, speaking from Washington.